In this video, I moved my 160-gallon saltwater system to my new house over 180 miles away in 15-degree weather. I've never bagged a fish or coral in my life. What could go wrong? Here's a quick pan over of the tank before the move. The sand bed and a few things got a bit dirty as I moved 3 hours away a month earlier and was only coming to the house about once a week, though my mom did a great job of feeding the fish and just checking on regular maintenance. I'm going to show a few clips of this tank in its glory from my ReefBay account, just because I'm so proud of this tank. It was my first ever saltwater tank. It's a little over 3 years old now. The main middle section was all set up to be LPS, so you can see torches, octospawn, I got hammers, and they all just became so big. Each one started as one head. That torch has 15 plus heads. And then here's the right section of the tank. It's all SPS. It's just a huge bird's nest, huge stylo, huge monties. Just everything grew so well. And I couldn't have been happier with how the tank turned out. And then finally, the left side of the tank was mainly softies. So you can see I just grew a bunch of Rasa zoanthids. And here's just all the zoanthids that I grew. And everything started as like 1 or 2 zoa frags. So just very proud of this tank, and it was so much fun to start from the beginning. Okay, enough reminiscing. It's time to get to work. My plan in the beginning is to drain all the water into garbage cans, then remove all the rock and coral, and then I'll be able to catch the fish and put them into the buckets. So let's get cracking. Here's a final top-down view of the tank with a lower water level. Who doesn't love a top-down view? You can see the bird's nest is already poking out of the water line. That thing got huge. I'm about to remove it in a second here, and you'll be able to see how big it is, but it's really difficult to get out of the tank. I'm trying my best to wiggle it without breaking off too many of these branches. The branches are really fragile, but finally, after wiggling it for a while, it just comes out nicely. You can see how nervous I look. I'm holding it more carefully than I held my newborn son. Look at that guy. It's too big to even fit in a 5-gallon bucket. I wish I had pulled out a tape measure, but I mean, it's almost as wide as that trash can, which is pretty absurd. Started as a 1 or 2 inch frag. And the first coral is out of the tank. Okay, the next coral to come out is the purple stylo. This guy also got pretty big. He started as another 1 inch frag, and the branches on this one are a lot thicker than the bird's nest, so it was a lot sturdier and a lot easier to transport. And then I ended up going after these Monty plates, the green Monty plate and the red Monty plate. I really banged these things up pretty bad. I didn't realize how brittle they were, and they just kind of fell apart. It kind of looks like it comes apart well here, but the plates end up just kind of falling apart in transport. So I'm a little bit disappointed on how I handled the Monty pour plates, but I'm not sure how I would have done it better in the future. So I figured moving this big of a tank and this big of coral, things were not going to look like they currently look like in the new tank, so I was okay with that. So here I am struggling to get the red Monty to dislocate itself, and it just basically falls into a bunch of pieces as I pull it up, which is a little bit sad. Then just plop her in the bucket and we're ready to go. I'm realizing now that if I planned better, I could have maybe just moved this entire rock. I just did not have enough large containers that would be able to fit something that size, so it was kind of an error in planning. All right, crisscross applesauce. Showing you off the heat pack that I'm using. It's called UniHeat. I bought it off of Amazon. Basically, it tells you to wrap it in paper, and that's how it reaches its perfect temperature. So I wrapped 2 of these in cardboard boxes, and I pack up all the coral and fish. And they end up all staying pretty warm, so I would definitely recommend this product to anyone else looking for it. Time to bag some coral. So this is my first time bagging a coral this large. I'm not sure why I start on my favorite coral, which is this Indo gold torch, which has grown to about 15 heads. I've fragged it multiple times already. It is interesting how they just turn to jelly when they're out of the water. It just makes you feel like they're going to fall apart and break. But this guy traveled really well and is looking great in the new tank. Spoiler alert. So I just bag him up, tie a knot, and then we're going to go over and plop him, the first guy, in the heated insulated box. Time to keep bagging coral. Go back and fetch some more water. And then I actually go for my second favorite piece, which is this purple and green frog spawn. It's got probably 5 or 6 heads on it. Tie a knot, plop them in the box, and repeat until all the coral are gone. This was definitely a tedious process and just kind of high anxiety because I'm not sure if I'm doing things properly, if the coral are going to live, if the fish are going to live. So this entire process was quite stressful. I went around the tank and bagged up as many astrea and turbo snails as I could find and just made a whole bag of snails. I've gotten snails from the store like this before, so I figured it would be okay. Here I am transferring the rest of the live rock and whatever else I can find in the tank. I, for some reason, overlooked how much space I would need for all this rock. I didn't really plan for containers or anything to hold this live rock, and I know it needs to stay wet for, I'm not exactly sure how long, but it needs to stay wet. So I ended up keeping the live rock in these trash cans and just filling the water level to about a 4th high and driving like that, which did work out okay, but it did end up causing some issues you will see in the future. The water level has gotten pretty low now, so it's time to go fishing. I just gently put the fish into these buckets as like a middle ground before I bag them up. Having a low water level makes it pretty darn easy to catch the fish. If any of you have tried catching fish in a regular sized tank with live rock, it's nearly impossible. So that's why you got to remove all the rock and get the water level as low as you can. But these guys still gave a good run for their money, and I was swinging my net around like crazy trying to catch them. Unfortunately, 2 of the fish did not survive transport, so stay tuned to the end to figure out which ones did not. Here is my clownfish that is 3.5 years old. Love that guy. It's a Da Vinci clownfish. The spiky barbs on the fox face made it a tricky fish to bag, and it's already a very skittish fish.
Oh God, there's already a hole in this bag.
You gotta get a new bag.
Yep.
As you may be able to tell from those shenanigans, that was my first time ever bagging a fish. So here we are with a new bag, and I pumped some oxygen in the top to make it breathable. But let me know at this point, do you think this fish is properly bagged or not? I would be curious to what you think at this point. Also, leave a like or a comment and subscribe, since this is my first or second YouTube video. All the engagement you can do will just help grow this channel. So thank you. Here I am bagging up my Da Vinci clownfish. She bagged up a lot easier than the fox-faced rabbitfish. It's just a smaller fish. Gave it a little spin around, tied it up, and got it ready for the insulated box. Here is a time lapse of me bagging up the rest of this fish in this bucket. I am starting to be aware that since I started bagging these fish, I want to start moving quickly and not have the fish sit in the bag too long, as they have a 3-hour drive ahead of them. I decide to transfer the bigger pieces of my SPS coral in this cooler. I didn't really have a plan before this started, and this was kind of just improvised, where I filled a bag with water and then plop in my big bird's nest. And then I also plop in stylo and I think the Montes as well. This was all kind of unplanned madness. I, for whatever reason, overlooked how I was going to transfer these large pieces of coral and live rock. So I am scrambling with what I have available. It all turns out okay, but it really was stressful. And I'm glad I'm sitting here doing a voiceover right now and not moving my tank. It is now time to scoop out all of my sand. As some of you may or may not know, bringing sand with you to a new tank is pretty dangerous, as it can release a lot of the fish poo and detritus that sits in your sand. So it's best just to get brand new sand for your tank. So I'm just filling up the buckets with sand, and I'm going to discard of this bucket later. Here is my Desjardins tang. I would say he's about 7 inches long, as well as some pajama cardinals and anthias in that box. And here's the other insulated box. I'm pretty happy with how these turned out. I just used styrofoam from previous packaging and the heat packs, and they all traveled pretty well in the freezing cold. I know it may look warm outside because it's sunny and that I'm wearing a t-shirt, but it's actually 15 degrees Fahrenheit or -9 degrees Celsius. We are just really hot from working in that basement. So here's me and my brother bringing this 125-gallon display tank. It's all glass, so it's pretty heavy. I rented this cargo van from U-Haul. I decided to use a van instead of a truck because you can heat the front and the back are connected, so I will at least get some heat into the back while I am driving. I end up blasting the heat on full and wear a t-shirt through the whole drive, hoping to give enough heat to everything throughout a 3-hour drive. I waited until the absolute end of loading up the entire van until I would put in the boxes of fish and coral, and that time has arrived. So here are the boxes of fish and coral. I put them as close as I can to the front so they get the most heat, and let's just hope for the best. Just to show that it actually is cold outside, here is some snow on the ground on my drive to my new house. And here's everybody in the back seat, hopefully staying nice and warm. And here is a really nervous guy driving some livestock, hoping not to kill anything. Let's go. I just arrived at the new house and the RODI bucket is overflowing. Off to a great start. Here comes the 125-gallon glass display tank. This tank is 6 feet long, so it was a little difficult getting down my stairs. We had to bring it pretty close to vertical, but finally it got there. It's sitting real pretty on top of that aluminum stand. You can check out my previous video of me assembling this aluminum stand. I'm super happy with it. And then here comes the 40-gallon sump. I wish I would have cleaned the sump and the display tank glass before I put it in. Just would have made things easier in the future, but we live and we learn. The first fish that I unboxed was my powder blue tang. I was extremely relieved to see that he was alive. And then there goes my Melanaris wrasse, both looking very healthy and moving around. I let them float in the 78-degree salt water for about 15 to 20 minutes to get acclimated to the new temperature. I'm assuming they lost a good amount of heat, but I'm not sure how cold the bags got.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
I noticed my foxface rabbitfish was not moving, but hoping for the best, I just released it straight into the water, hoping to see any signs of life. Unfortunately, he was stiff, cold, and dead. Really upset about this. I would say, other than my Desjardins tang, he was definitely my second favorite fish. Had a lot of personality, just would eat a ton of algae. So this really is a sad loss for the tank. And I don't take it lightly. I feel bad. I'm the one that bagged this fish. He was, if you go back into the video, you'll see he was the first fish that I bagged. I'm thinking now in hindsight, the bag may have been too small. The bag I bagged my Desjardins tang was a lot bigger than his bag. So I do take fault in that, and next time I bag a large fish, it will be in a much larger bag. Here are all the fish acclimated to the new water and swimming around happily. I am feeling pretty good about how the fish are looking now, and I'm going to end this video here, and in the next video we are going to put the tank all together, which will end up being actually the next day. So stay tuned for putting the tank back together, and I appreciate everyone who has watched this video so far. Please give it a like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.